One of the things I've loved about starting this YouTube channel is the number of conversations it started with people around the country and actually the world that are just long chats around how we can reduce our emissions, what our priorities could be, and where we can make big steps forward. So a couple of weeks ago, I loved getting a text from an old pal from uni, the now Reverend Simon Watkinson. So I asked the question in his lovely Manchester accent, "Mate, how much work has been done on the carbon in data storage and what it could take to lighten that load? Is clearing your cloud drive or email even making a dent?" I thought, good question, and the cogs started whirring. And this episode is about the hidden emissions of data, Netflix, YouTube, and everything we do online. My name is Tom, and this is a little series about a low carbon lifestyle. A few years ago, I worked for a big old engineering consultancy. We worked alongside architects to design buildings, and that's where my passion for low carbon buildings started. The office I worked in was one of the expert hubs around data center design. So I worked on a few data center projects whilst I was there. Data centers are these big industrial warehouses. They've got loads of computers or server racks within them. Rows and rows of racks, some with flashing lights. It looks very futuristic and sci-fi. It's a super clean, super bright, kind of loud environment where everything is stored online. Some of the bigger data centers use that much energy that it makes a dent on the nation's energy demand when in full flow. This is to power the computers or servers that are actually pretty efficient, but more importantly, to cool the air so the servers don't overheat. Depending on the location and the climate in that location, and depending on the building and the data center layout, all of that stuff, we would use different solutions to cool the room. Lots of these solutions just utilize cold air from the outside, or use really efficient systems to remove heat. But on the hottest day of the year, and a lot of the year, the data centers would be using a lot of energy by cooling air to cool that bank of servers. My old pals at work were some of the best in the business, winning awards at industry events and designing data centers that are really incredibly efficient. But even the lowest energy, best power usage effectiveness, even those sites would still use loads of energy to run. The stat from a couple of years ago is that data centers around the world use 6% of the world's electricity. Breathe that in for a moment. 6%. And over this last year, as meetings and social events and entertainment and everything has moved even further into the digital space, I reckon that figure's probably gone up even more. It's been at least 16 months since I've really had anything to do with data centers, and I wouldn't have said I was much of an expert back then. I'm sure my colleagues will tell you that. But that experience and size question led me to think, yeah, there is a hidden cost to our lives online. What is it? So I went on and did some digging. There are actually a few papers online about this. One that I read suggests that 1 gigabyte of data would use about 3 to 7 kilowatt hours of electricity per year to store, even if it's never accessed. That's not that much, and that figure would have been about 700 grams or 1500 grams of CO2 for that 1 gigabyte of data in the UK. And it's not actually that significant. But the 200 gigabytes of storage I pay for online every year kind of is 150 to 300 kilograms of CO2 per year, which I reckon is about driving 1,000 miles in my petrol car just to store stuff. And for me, that storage tends to be full of photos that I've taken on my phone over the last 7 or 8 years, many of which were terrible photos, blurry, of nothing significant, and will probably never be looked at again. Am I really doing that much damage just to have them stored? Well, yeah, I think I am. And I think it gets worse. I thought of Mike Berners-Lee again, as I do several times a week, who gives a list of almost everything we do, the impact of almost everything we do, in his book, How Bad Are Bananas? He estimates that a short email could be less than 1 gram of CO2 emissions. That's really nothing. But a larger email sent to lots of people could be in the region of 26 grams of CO2. Again, it's not loads, but you can imagine it adding up with a full inbox. He goes on to mention an hour of streaming BBC iPlayer, which you might do several times a week, on a laptop would be about 132 grams of CO2. And probably similar for other streaming services like Netflix or Now TV or Amazon Prime and YouTube. He says that a typical usage of a smartphone every day would emit 69 kilograms of CO2 per year. And he reckons globally that's 690 million tons of CO2 per year. Wow. So as I record this video, my YouTube channel has been watched for a total of nearly 200 hours, which is pretty crazy. Thanks for bearing with me. So my channel could have emissions of just over 26 kilograms just from a few people watching it. Imagine what the most viewed channels are doing. The baby shark dance video has over 8 billion views, I think. If we assume that those views are only for 1 minute each, because it's not that, you don't want to watch the whole thing, I think just from people watching that video, it's emitted over 17,000 tons of CO2. So if storing photos and emails, and if streaming Netflix, if streaming podcasts, if streaming music, if watching YouTube and making YouTube is emitting so much, then maybe we need to stop, or at least have a detox, clear out our inboxes, delete videos and photos that we aren't particularly nostalgic about, and delete them for good. Or instead of storing on the cloud in the first place, store on a hard drive in a drawer. Old school. So, if you're like me and have an automatic save to iCloud set up on your phone, do us all a favour today. Have a look at your videos and delete a few. In fact, stop this video and do it now. The slight saving grace in all this is that these big tech companies, Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, Google, are setting some pretty serious targets for energy use, for renewable energy use and for decarbonisation. Apple is already 100% powered by renewable energy globally. Google says it's going to be carbon free by 2030, and it's actually purchased offsets for all of its emissions since it began. But remember, we know how offsets can be a bit dodgy. Amazon says it'll be net zero emissions by 2040, 100% renewable power by 2025. Microsoft says it'll be carbon negative, great term, by 2030. And some of these are really quite bold and exciting pledges that will have a real impact. And if we can limit our reliance on data alongside those pledges, we could reduce the demand for electricity in the first place, reduce the demand for fossil fuels, and increase the proportion of energy met by renewable energy. This is one of those things where we are tiny, 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 tiny fish in a very, very large pond. But let's give it a go. Let's delete those old videos stored on the cloud. Let's reply all less. Let's not send attachments on emails. Little by little, we may have some impact. One thing I haven't even mentioned in this whole story is cryptocurrency or Bitcoin. But I think that might need its own video to talk about. Thanks so much for watching this video. If you liked it, if you listened and understood, then please don't share this video. Close down your laptop and maybe get a physical book out or something. Just get away from it all. Or maybe you could share it with someone that you think might find it interesting or useful. I guess if everyone who watched this video was able to save more than 20 grams of CO2 by de-datarizing their life, then maybe this video wouldn't have had that bad an impact. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.